Hey there. Before ending the year, I want to make a video sharing my experience about how I lost weight and I kept it until now. It may be of use to some of you, especially after the end of the year celebrations. And before starting, you may ask, what are my credentials to talk about this topic? After all, I guess there has to be hundreds or thousands of videos on the internet about how to lose weight, and I guess mine won't be necessarily the best way or the optimal way. I don't know if such a thing exists really. However, I was overweight my whole life until I was around 16, and literally one day I decided I didn't want to be overweight anymore, and I did it. So at least this method that I'm going to share with you, this worked for me, and of course it doesn't mean that it will work for you. It may work, it may not work. So that's some of the caveats. Of course, I'm not a medical advisor or stuff like that. I'm a doctor, but not a medical doctor. So you can take this as with a grain of salt. You have to check by yourself that it works, and the typical stuff that check with your doctor before doing any changes with your diet or your health. But in any case, as I mentioned, I was overweight my whole life until around 16, when I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. I wasn't that overweight, like 10 kilograms or 20 pounds or stuff like that. So it wasn't like a huge amount, but I wasn't satisfied with this, and I want to do a change that it will work. And I didn't want to do it like multiple times. I want to do it like once for all. So I think that's the key. And looking back a little bit into the past, I think the reason why I could do it was because I was very extremely determined to change. Literally, I had like a spontaneous realization one day that I didn't want to be overweight anymore, and this gave me like the willpower and the energy and the determination to do whatever it takes to change my life forever. Again, before getting into details of the method, which is pretty simple, I'm going to explain a little bit in a couple of minutes. For me, the most important step, and I would call it a step 0, is to have a 100% determination to not just to drop weight. This is not about losing weight, it's about changing who you are. And I think that most of you may underestimate this step, this total determination, but I can assert, I mean, not with 100% certainty, but I would be pretty sure that if you don't have this determination to change who you are, to see yourself as someone healthy, someone fit forever, you will struggle forever. You won't be able to stick to your goals. And I mean, you can see a lot of people out there. I mean, most of people that lose weight, they recover it after a couple of years, and they may get even surgery, but that won't be enough. And the reason of that, in my opinion, is because there is no change, an inner change about who they are. They still see themselves as the old overweight person, and I think that still is very a factor that's very underestimated, but in my opinion this is the most important one. If your psychology is not in order in that regard, if your identity is not willing to change, and I made a lot of videos about the topics, you can check them out, then it will be very difficult to you to make the changes, the necessary changes to improve your life, and in this case to lose the weight. So that's I want to emphasize this step again, because after your psychology is in order in that regard, after willing to do whatever it takes, then really becomes quite effortless. Really, it doesn't matter what do you do. And I know that if you are now struggling with weight, you may think that this is bullshit, that I'm keeping the secret, but there is no secret. The most important step, in my opinion, is to have this 100% determination to change who you are. And to be honest, for me, it worked quite spontaneously. I literally woke up one day and said to myself, I cannot stay the way I am anymore. I need to improve myself. I need to lose this weight. I don't remember exactly how it happened. It was very spontaneous. And this sort of spontaneous shift in consciousness has happened to me a couple of times in my life. It's not something that happens every day, really. So I don't have like a solution to that step 0, but I think this is the most important one. Now, if you're not like 100% determined, doesn't mean that this will be completely pointless and you cannot lose weight. But I think that you should keep this in mind to work along the losing weight process, because otherwise at some point this will come and bite you in the ass. So that's the caveat and the preliminary step for this method to work, in my opinion, and any method for that matter. So that's the step 0. So now the step number 1 in this method. So essentially this consists in 2 main steps. So the first step will be about tracking. So that's very important. So during the first 2 weeks, so let's say you start, I mean you can start any day, but let's say you start on a Monday, like tomorrow, first day of the year. So you start tracking. So what do I mean by that? I need to explain this, all right? So you are going to download any food tracking app. The one I use is called, I don't know if it's still there, but it's called MyFitnessPal. I guess it's still there, but there are many options. I don't really care which one you use. So the first step is extremely important. Both steps are very important, but the first one, I think that's the most important one, is the tracking. And I think most people really don't know how much they're eating, and especially if you are struggling with weight issues, you probably underestimate the amount of calories you eat. You may be eating not too much amount of food, but the calories may be high, and we are going to see this later why this is the case. But the tracking process, the idea is that you become more aware of what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. So how this works, as I mentioned, you download any food tracking app. You can choose whatever you want, and for the next 2 weeks you are going to record there in the app every food you eat, like everything. So the food you eat for breakfast, the food you eat for lunch, any snack, anything that has calories. I mean, if you drink water or coffee with no sugar, then I wouldn't include that. But all food I would register there, and I would take at least 2 weeks for that step, because especially at the beginning it's quite awkward, because you need to learn how the app works. It's not complicated, but still it will take a couple of minutes here and there, and you need to give again yourself time to adopt this new habit. I stopped tracking food some time ago, but I did it for many years, until at some point you know what you're eating, because you have been doing this for so long. But I mean, you don't have to do this forever, but I would recommend at least during this process where you're losing weight, so that you know what you're eating, and probably you can keep it for later, depending on your fitness goals. Maybe in the future you decide you want to gain muscle and you need to increase the amount of calories, or so on. So really, you can do this for a long time. Anyways, So you, for the next 2 weeks, or at least, or more even, doesn't have to be 2 weeks, but I would recommend at least 2 weeks to give you time to adapt to the process, and also to to see trends, because this will be important for the next step. Okay, so you put in the app every food you eat, and again, this may be a little bit tricky because a lot of foods, especially the one that comes in a package, you can scan the barcode with those apps, and you get all the nutritional information there. Those apps have very big databases, so all the well, not all processed, but all the packaged food, like, I don't know, the tomato sauce, the pasta, the rice, all this, you can scan the barcode and you will get, in most cases, the nutritional information. So you don't need to worry about entering everything manually. But let's say that you cook something. You could cook, I don't know, like anything, like pasta with bolognese sauce, I don't know, whatever. Then, I mean, if you enter in the app like bolognese pasta, whatever, then there will be many recipes, and they will have very different amount of calories and nutritional information. So it's important, if you want to have like a more precise estimate, I mean, there will be always a margin of error, so really you don't have to be perfectionistic here. But if you want to improve a little bit the accuracy, I think it's a good idea to add the meals manually, and all these apps have the feature of adding a meal, so you can create a meal like pasta, for example, and you put the ingredients there, and for that you can use the scanning the barcode and add the ingredients, and then depending on how many portions the meal is, you can get a very accurate estimate of the calories this meal contains. So this is especially useful for like the food you eat at home, that your mom cooks or that you cook or whatever, because I mean, if you just enter the name of the meal in the app, there may be many variations of the recipe, so it's not very accurate. If you are in a rush, maybe it's better than nothing, of course, but that's why I recommend that you do this for a good amount of times, because especially for the foods that you normally eat, I mean, at first will be a pain because you will need to create the recipes manually, but once you do that, then it's very easy, because probably, I mean, if you are like me, you do more or less the same recipe every time. You don't change it that much, so you can use the same meal you create in the app many times. So that's important. So again, at this stage you don't reduce any calories. So at this stage you are just getting used with the app and entering the information and becoming aware. You may become aware, oh shit, I'm eating a lot of sugar, or a lot of, this has a lot of calories. I didn't know that this has so many calories. And I think that's very important, because as I mentioned, we tend to underestimate how much calories we're eating. And of course, nutrition is not just calories, but for losing weight, calories is the most important factor. We may talk a little bit at the end about the macros, but really, if you want to lose weight, you need to reduce the amount of calories you're consuming on average. And there are many calculators online where you can get an approximation of how many calories you need to eat in a day to keep your weight, and by tracking you can see how many calories you are actually eating. So maybe you need 2,000 calories a day to stay the same, and maybe you're eating 2,500 calories, so there is a 500 calories difference, and you need to go below the 2,000 calories if you want to drop weight. The 2,000 are just to keeping the weight. So again, it's important that you don't try to do changes at this stage. The idea is to be very accurate. Don't try to bullshit yourself. Don't try to lie to yourself. I think that's pretty pointless. I mean, you are not showing this to anybody. You don't need to impress anybody. This is just for you. And I think that part of the process here is that you learn about yourself, about your body, about your habits. That a lot of times is very unconscious. We just eat a lot of time because we are bored, because we are sad or depressed, and you may realize all about this, about all these factors that were unconscious, and this step will bring it to your awareness. Okay, so that's step one. You track the food with the app for at least 2 weeks. I would recommend, so that you get more or less an idea of what you're eating regularly. I mean, of course, there will be foods that you may eat here and there. I don't know, if you go to the cinema, you may get some popcorn, or those are more outliers. But I mean, you have to care more about the things you are eating on a regular basis, and how many calories do this food have. Okay, so yeah, that's the first step. All right, so the next step will be the replacement one. Okay, so as I mentioned, you will continue tracking throughout this process the food. I mean, you don't stop doing it. You will be doing this for a while. So step one was just tracking. Step two, after we have some information, we have 2 weeks of information, or even more. If you struggle with tracking some days, you may want to do it for a little bit longer. Again, don't try to rush the process. If you want to lose weight and keep it forever, this is like it's a marathon. It's not like a 100-meter sprint. So really, it's not about who loses weight the fastest. This is not a competition. This is something that you want to do for the rest of your life. You want to keep a healthy body weight for the rest of your life. Okay, so don't try to rush the process. Okay, so step number 2 is the replacement part. So what do I mean by that? So you will pick 3 foods that are the most caloric dense, or that are caloric dense, not necessarily the most, but that they are caloric dense. And what do I mean by calorie dense? Calorie dense foods are those that have a bunch of calories but are not very satiating. Okay, so you can think of cookies, chips, cake, fries, I don't know, most of the junk food or highly processed food, ice cream, all this is calorie dense. They have a bunch of calories and they're not very satiating. So think of the comparison between, I don't know, well, there is the example of vegetables, like, I don't know, lettuce. I mean, try to eat 500 calories of lettuce. I mean, it will take forever, because lettuce has so little calories. It's mostly water. In comparison, eating 500 calories of ice cream is nothing. I mean, you can eat easily 2,000 calories of ice cream if you are like watching like Netflix or something like that, or playing video games. So it's not difficult at all. You could easily eat 2,000 calories of ice cream, but almost impossible to eat 2,000 calories of lettuce. That's what calorie dense means. Again, this is not like setting a stone. Like, there is no like a sign in the label of the food that says this is calorie dense. This is something that you will figure out by yourself. That's why you want to track in your phone, and then you will see, oh yeah, this has a lot of calories. I didn't know that. Or maybe the opposite. You may realize, oh, I could eat more of this, has fewer calories, and could replace by this stuff. So you see, that's why I cannot give you like the answer that replace this by that, because part of the process is that you learn, oh, this is it has a lot of calories, I didn't know that, or whatever. Also, I would include in this category of calorie dense foods sugar, if all sugar you add to your coffee, your milk or tea, and the Coke or sodas that contain sugar. Like for example, the normal Coke in comparison to Coke Zero, for example. The beverage that have sugar and calories. And also the sugar from, if you add sugar to coffee, tea, whatever. All this I would also consider as calorie dense food. So for example, in a hypothetical example, let's say that I consume regularly, and it's important that you pick 3 foods that you consume regularly, at least once a week, okay, because those foods will have the biggest impact. So you pick 3, and only 3. Let's say I pick ice cream. Let's say that I add sugar to coffee or tea, and the third one could be what could be I don't know, French fries. I don't know, just to give an example. So let's say that you eat those 3 things on a regular basis: ice cream, sugar in coffee, tea, and fries. And again, you don't have to eat those things every day, but let's say that you eat them once, twice a week. That's enough. Okay, so what we are going to do? We are not going to just, we are going to eliminate them, but not just that. And I'm going to explain why later. What you're going to do is to find a replacement, a low-calorie replacement for each one of them. And the reason is that you want to keep yourself satiated as much as possible. The mistake I would say that most people make is that they eliminate too much food at once, and yeah, they will drop weight, of course, but it's not the best strategy, because you will start to feel hungry, and your mood will start to get messed up, and you won't enjoy the process. You will feel miserable, and at some point you will quit. So that's why I will recommend this gradual approach, that you pick 3 foods and you don't just eliminate it, you find a replacement, a low-calorie replacement. And there are many benefits to that. As I mentioned, also you will learn about what foods are low-calorie alternatives. You may not know, you may think, oh, but what can I choose? So next time you go to a supermarket, you may go to the healthy aisle, and you may realize, oh, there are a lot of alternatives here. So let's say in the example I gave you of replacing ice cream, sugar, and fries. I ideally would replace by something that you also eat, what do I mean by that? I would find a replacement that you eat at the same time. Like, for example, for ice cream, I wouldn't replace ice cream with lettuce, for example, or with salad, because you eat ice cream for dessert, and you don't eat salad for dessert. So I will pick a low-calorie alternative for ice cream. And actually, there are ice creams out there that are with no sugar, like for diabetic people. So for example, you could consider one of those, or a fruit or something sweet. Okay, so the idea is that you find an alternative that has significantly less calories than the original one. At least I would say 50% less calories. Ideally 50% less calories per 100 grams. So for example, if your ice cream has 500 calories per 100 grams, I would try to find an alternative that has less or equal than 250 calories per 100 grams. just to give an example. It doesn't have to be precise, but I would try to find an alternative that has 50% or less calories. For the sugar, is easy. You can always find like a alternative, like a stevia or something like that, like a edulcorant, a sweetener, artificial sweetener. I mean, of course, there are people that think those are bad for your health, but you're not going to put too much, just to enough to keep the sweetness. Of course, you can also just remove the sugar. I think it's not as bad as you may think. I drink when I used to drink coffee or whatever for a long time. I do it without sugar, and there is nothing bad about this. But whatever is best for you. For the fries, let's say you eat the fries with your main dish for dinner or for lunch, you can replace them with boiled potatoes. So it's almost the same, but you can discover, and you will discover that boiled potatoes have significantly less calories than the fries, or are more satiating. Like 500 calories, let's say, of fries are way less satiating than 500 calories of boiled potatoes. The boiled potatoes will provide more satiety than the fries. That's a very simple example. So you find an alternative and you do the replacement, and that's it. You just choose 3 foods that you consume regularly, at least once a week, and you find a replacement and you stick to the replacement. So if you do that and you don't change the rest of your diet, what should happen is that you reduce the amount of calories, depending, I mean, maybe more or less, maybe 200, 300 calories per day, or maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Don't worry too much about reducing too much at once. If you can reduce by 200 on average, that's great. You don't need to do more at this stage. So you do that, and you keep doing your tracking. And for this stage, I recommend that you weigh yourself once a week, ideally at the same time, because you need to track your progress. And in this point about weighing yourself, let me remark that your weight fluctuates a lot from day to day, and don't freak out about not progressing every week. That's pretty normal. And I will talk about how to go from this step. I mean, because what do we do next? But I mean, ideally, if you can, and if you don't have trouble with doing this, you could weigh yourself every day, and then you can choose the average for the weight of the week. So let's say you weigh yourself from Monday to Sunday, and then you take the average for the week. And this is better because, as I mentioned, there may be fluctuations. And if you are, if you're a woman, this may your menstrual cycle may affect the weight from one day to the next in a pretty remarkable way. So really, it's important. I mean, ideally, if you can, I would recommend you to do it daily. But I know that a lot of people don't like they don't like to weigh themselves. They have trouble with this. So in that case, once a week also is fine. I mean, you don't have to do it daily. Just doing daily, I think, it gives you a more accurate description of your weekly weight. But do what works best for you. But I think that at least once a week should be important to keep track of your progress. Otherwise, how do you know that you're dropping weight? Okay, so you record your weight every week, and if from one week to the next you don't drop weight, don't freak out. You keep doing what you're doing. Now, if for the second week you also keep the same, then we are going to introduce a change. Okay, so essentially, if for 2 consecutive weeks your weight doesn't change, doesn't go down, then we are going to repeat the previous step. What do I mean by that is that you are going to choose 3 more foods different from the previous one. You're going to choose 3 foods, and you are going to do the same process. You are going to find replacement and do that. So let me give you an example. So let's say that you after 2 weeks you start you do the 3 food replacements, and let's say that you drop weight weeks 3, 4, and 5, let's say, and then in week 6 your weight stays the same, and then in week 7 it goes down again. Then I would continue doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't choose 3 more foods. I would, because it was only 1 week that you didn't drop weight. So I will only choose 3 more foods if for 2 consecutive weeks the weight stays the same. Okay, that's the key. And if that's the case, you choose 3 more foods that are calorie dense from your tracking. You are going to continue tracking, and you do the replacement, the same thing as the previous step. So it's an iteration step. So whenever your weight gets stuck for 2 weeks in a row, you choose 3 more foods from your the foods you eat normally, at least once a week, I would say, and you eliminate them and replace them for something that's low calorie. So it's the same step. Essentially, this method is just 2 steps. The first one is to track, and then in the second step is an iterative process where whenever you are stuck for 2 weeks, you look for 3 foods that are calorie dense, and you find a replacement. And you can do that for several iterations. I mean, you should be able to do this process at least 3 times, I would say, from my experience. I mean, there is a lot of foods you can tweak, and that's, I mean, if you do this process and you follow it, you should be able to drop a significant amount of weight for a period of 3 to 6 months. I mean, you shouldn't do something different for this period of time. Just tracking and picking 3 foods that are calorie dense and replace them. So that's essentially it. And I'm pretty sure that, as I mentioned, that you can follow this protocol for at least 3 months. I mean, you shouldn't be run out of high calorie. I mean, if you are overweight now, it's because you are eating more calories than you need. So definitely you have some room for improvement there. So I don't think that you will run out of choices pretty fast, at least the first 3 months, I would say, and I should be able to drop at least I don't know how many, but at least 10 to 15 pounds, I would say, in this period. So of course that at some point you may run out of processed or junk food, and then you may start to consider, like, for example, pasta is also a I would say a pretty calorie dense food. It's not junk food, but I mean, in my experience, I could eat like 200 grams of pasta, and it would be like nothing. So you could like consider, for example, pasta if you eat a lot of pasta. And again, there are low-calorie alternatives to pasta nowadays, like protein pasta. I mean, there is a lot of alternative really, but I want to deliberately. I don't want to give more steps, because the purpose of this exercise is to keep you going on. And I think that a lot of people that struggle with weight, they tend to overcomplicate things to find the perfect magic diet that will solve all the problems in their life. But really, you have to start somewhere, and I think that the more radical the change is, the more difficult for you will be, and the less likely that you will stick to it. Because here we are talking about, again, it's not a diet that you do for 3 months and then you come back to normal. Actually, what we plan to do with this method is that you change the way you eat forever, not just for a couple of months. And again, if you're not willing to do that, then this won't work. And I mean, you may agree or not with that, but that's the way it is. I mean, you can try by yourself. If you you are been trying to lose weight for a long time, you may know that this is true, that you cannot expect to see results by doing the same things you've been doing. So this is not a temporary change. This is a change of a lifestyle. And I cannot stress this enough, because I still, lots of people, even in my family, they think of diet as something that you do for 3 months and then you come back to normal. But I mean, that's complete nonsense. Of course, if you do that, you will be back to the previous weight. It's not that weight somehow is created from thin air. The fat that we accumulate is because we are eating more calories on a regular basis. It's not a one-time event. So really, if you want to lose weight and keep it forever, you need to be okay with changing your life habits, and maybe in the future also adding some exercise. But this stage is not even necessary. I mean, if you are doing exercise, keep doing it, of course, but I wouldn't even talk about starting with exercise at this stage, because 80% of your weight loss process is about fixing your diet. And the way I'm recommending doing it here is in a gradual way, because as I mentioned, the more different, I mean, if a nutritionist gives you a diet that's completely different of what you eat, then it will be very difficult for you. And I mean, I know like family that's been there, and probably you also experienced that they give you a diet that you don't know what the hell is that, and you don't know how to cook this, you don't like the flavor. I mean, that's complete nonsense. And I think that that's the problem with a lot of the nutritionists out there, that they give you very generic advice. It's not personalized according to the needs of the patient. In my opinion, nutrition is a very personal thing. Ultimately, you really need to figure out what works best for you. So that's why also I'm being very reluctant to give you like, okay, you should eat this, you should eat that, because nutrition is a very personal affair, in my opinion. Depends a lot on your genetics, what will work best for you and what not. And in that regard, I'm very reluctant to give you specific advice, as I mentioned. So, and also because in a sense, I feel like I will be removing the fun of it. I think that personally, I mean, I'm very into personal development, personal growth, and in a sense, my personal development journey starts by changing my diet. And a lot of people that get into personal development start by either dropping weight or getting in better shape, getting muscle, stuff like that. And I think that the reason of that is because it's very tangible, and because a lot of our psychological well-being hinges upon our body, about how the weight looks, but also about how we feel, because being overweight carries a lot of problems for your body. I mean, it's of course depends on how much overweight you are, but it may be more difficult to move or to do certain daily activities. So your quality of life overall improves, you feel better, you feel with more energy, so your state of well-being changed a lot. And for me at least, that's what's like the open way, the doorway to personal development. And you can check out the channel for more information about that. But to end up the video, as I mentioned, this is just to keep you going. I think that this weight loss journey is it's very personal, and you really should take it as like a journey of discovering what works best for you, and trying to trying to do those changes. It's not easy, especially if you live like an environment where, for example, as a kid, like I had so much cookies and sweets to my disposal that, of course, I mean, this environment was very difficult to not be overweight. So I think that's why it's for so many people it's difficult, because if you live in an environment where all what you see is junk food, and that's what's normal, then trying to eat fruit is like boring, and trying to break free of those this conditioning is not easy. It takes time. So that's why I don't want you to rush, because if you rush, chances are it won't work, because you need to give time not just to your body but to your psyche to reshape the way it is, so that it's closer to your ideal self in a sense, and you start to integrate that into yourself. I know that sounds like very airy-fairy, but I think that's the key component of not only weight loss but any change in your life. So that's it. If you have any questions, just leave a comment if something wasn't clear. And I'm really looking forward, so that maybe next year is the year where you drop those pounds. And if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe for more personal development content. And that's it. So I wish you a happy new year, and I hope to see you in the future. That's all for today. Bye.